The meeting room was large, with walls that hummed with the quiet energy of the galaxy's most powerful leaders. Humans had never been a central part of the galactic powers, but they had always been there, watching, waiting. For centuries, they had listened to the decisions made by the larger and older civilizations. They had followed the rules, kept the peace, and always chosen restraint. But now, that was changing. Captain Emily Hayes sat at the center of the long, oval table, her posture straight and confident. She was the human representative in this room, surrounded by representatives from the largest, most powerful species in the galaxy. Each of them sat with an air of superiority, their heads held high. Confident in their control over the galactic order, "We have no intention of breaking the peace," said one of the leaders, a tall being with purple skin and multiple eyes. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. "But you must understand, humans are not equipped to be on equal terms with us. We've seen your technologies. They are, for the most part, outdated. Your ships, your weapons, nothing compared." 2 hours. Emily's eyes narrowed, but she kept her expression neutral. She knew exactly what they thought of her people. They saw humanity as small, unimportant, and incapable of standing up to the might of the established powers. They had always thought humanity would remain peaceful, content to play by the rules. Emily took a slow breath. She had prepared for this moment for a long time. She glanced around the room at the alien faces, each one either skeptical or uninterested. But she was determined. The time for restraint was over. "We are not here to negotiate," she said, her voice steady and firm. "We are here to send a message." The room fell silent. For a moment, the only sound was the soft hum of the walls, the quiet that always followed after something unexpected. Emily continued, her words measured but powerful. "For centuries, humanity has stayed in the shadows. We've held back, followed the rules, and respected the balance. But the balance has shifted. The galaxy has changed, and we will no longer stay silent. We have restrained ourselves, but we won't anymore." The room shifted uncomfortably. The other leaders exchanged glances, unsure of how to respond. This was not what they expected. Humans were supposed to be peaceful. They were supposed to stay out of the way. But here, sitting at the table, was a human who was challenging everything they had believed. One of the leaders, an insect-like creature with long, segmented legs, leaned forward. "You cannot be serious. You know the consequences of disrupting? The galactic peace. You would never survive a conflict with the likes of us." Emily's lips curled into a faint smile, though there was no humor in it. "We've survived much worse. We are stronger than you think." She pressed a button on the table and a holographic image appeared in the center of the room. The other leaders looked at it curiously. First they saw what looked like an old, outdated ship, a relic of humanity's past. But, as the image expanded, more details began to appear. The ship wasn't just old, it was far more advanced than any of them could have imagined. "This," Emily said, "is a glimpse of what humanity has been working on for years. You think we are weak, that our ships are outdated, but you have no idea what we've been hiding. We have been building in secret, preparing. And now the galaxy will see that humanity is no longer afraid." The leaders stared at the hologram in disbelief. The ship was designed with incredible precision, with a combination of technology they had never seen before. It was sleek, fast, and most importantly deadly. "But," the insect-like leader stammered, "how could you have such technology?" "We've learned," Emily replied. "We've watched, we've listened, and we've studied. And now we're ready to show you what humanity can do when we choose not to hold back." She stood up, her hands resting on the edge of the table. Her eyes scanned each of the leaders, making sure they understood the weight of her words. "We are not a threat to the peace of the galaxy," she said. "We simply want to be treated as equals. If you continue to underestimate us, you will regret it. And if you attack us, we will fight back. We've held our power in check for too long, but that time is over." For a long moment, the room was still. The leaders were speechless. They had always believed that humanity was weak, harmless, but now they were starting to understand that they had made a mistake. A dangerous mistake. "We'll be watching," Emily said softly, before turning and walking out of the room. Her footsteps echoed in the silence, leaving behind a group of leaders who were no longer so sure of their dominance. The message had been sent. And now, the galaxy would have to face the truth. Humanity was no longer hiding. The days following the human message were tense. The galaxy's leaders debated furiously over the unexpected declaration. No one had ever imagined that humans, the so-called peaceful race, would dare to challenge the status quo. Their surprise soon turned into fear. What had they missed? What were humans hiding? Captain Emily Hayes returned to Earth after the meeting, her mind racing. She had delivered the message, but she knew the galaxy would not back down so easily. The Galactic powers were not used to being challenged. They certainly were not going to simply accept a new power rising from the fringes of the galaxy. The time for restraint was over, but the humans still had work to do. Back on Earth, Emily met with her commanders and engineers in a highly secure facility, deep underground, far away from the prying eyes of other galactic species, humanity's secret was ready to be revealed. "Is everything in place?" Emily asked, looking over the large holographic displays in front of her. "Yes, Captain," said Commander Alex Carter, a tall, sharp officer who had been with her through some of humanity's most difficult moments. "The fleet is ready to go. We've made sure everything is operational. The ships are fully equipped, and the modifications have made them much more dangerous than we first thought." Emily nodded, a slow smile crossing her face. She had known that humanity had the potential to be much more than the galaxy thought. But seeing the full scope of what they had accomplished still filled her with awe. They had built this fleet in secret, using technology from across the galaxy-old ships. Scavenged parts and cutting-edge innovations combined in ways that no one had ever dreamed possible. The ships, though seemingly outdated, were now formidable. They were faster, more powerful, and equipped with technology that the galaxy's powers had yet to encounter. But what made them truly deadly was the human mind behind them. Humanity had always been known for its ingenuity, and now they had taken that to a new level. As Emily walked through the underground hangar, the ships stood like giants, silent but ready. They were old, yes, but they had been given new life. She felt a deep pride in what humanity had achieved, but also a sense of responsibility. The fleet wasn't just about fighting, it was about showing the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. She turned to Alex. "We need to be ready. The galaxy will react to this, and we can't afford to be caught off guard." Alex nodded. "We'll be ready, Captain. But I have to ask, what's the next step?" Emily paused for a moment, thinking about the message she had delivered in the galactic meeting. Humanity's words were clear. They would no longer stay silent. But now they needed to back those words up. The fleet was the first step, but it wasn't enough. They needed to show the galaxy that their restraint had been a choice, not a weakness. "We need to show them our strength," Emily said firmly. "We need to send a signal, a reminder that we've been holding back for far too long. We'll begin by showing our capabilities. It's time for the galaxy to understand who we really are." Part 3. Breaking the chains. The time had come. Humanity's sleeper fleet, hidden for so long, was about to make its first move. Emily stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching the stars stretch out before her. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had always felt small in it. But that was about to change. "We're approaching the outskirts of Vorta Space, Captain," Alex said from his station. "They've already noticed our fleet's movements," Emily nodded. The Vorta were one of the largest empires in the galaxy, a militaristic species that had long dominated others. They were the perfect target for humanity's first demonstration of power. For years, the Vorta had seen humanity as weak, a species to be ignored. They had never believed humans could pose a real threat. "Prepare for Phase 1, Emily ordered. "Let's show them the power of restraint." The fleet moved silently through the dark void, the ships following a precise formation. They had trained for this moment for months, perfecting every maneuver, every detail. They were ready to strike. When the time came, soon they reached the border of Vorta Space. The human fleet paused, hovering just outside the Vorta's territorial reach. The Vorta would have seen them coming, and now they had to decide whether to respond or let the humans pass. Emily watched the communications screen closely, her eyes narrowing as the first Vorta ship appeared on the edge of the fleet's view. The Vorta had sent a ship to investigate, likely hoping to intimidate the humans. But Emily knew they were making a mistake. "Let them come closer," she said quietly. "They need to understand that we won't back down." The Vorta ship moved toward them, but as it approached, the human fleet remained still, almost as if daring the Vorta to make the first move. When the Vorta ship was within range, the humans struck swiftly, decisively. And without hesitation, the Vorta ship didn't stand a chance. In a matter of seconds, it was disabled, its weapons silenced, its engines powerless. The Vorta, stunned by the sudden and unexpected strike, scrambled to respond. But it was too late. The human fleet had already made their point. "We've sent them a message," Emily said, her voice calm as she watched the scene unfold on the screen. "Now let's see how the rest of the galaxy reacts." As the fleet moved deeper into Vorta space, the human ships continued to demonstrate their power. The Vorta sent more ships to challenge them, but each one was met with the same overwhelming force. Humanity's ships were faster, more advanced, and more deadly than anyone had expected. The rest of the galaxy began to take notice. The communications network buzzed with messages from other species, each one wondering what humanity had done to suddenly become so powerful. The galaxy was starting to realize that the humans, who had once been known for their peaceful nature, were no longer the weak race they had been seen as. "Phase 1 is complete, Captain," Alex reported. "We've shown them what we're capable of." Emily looked out at the stars again, her expression hardening. "This is just the beginning. The galaxy will learn to respect humanity, or they will learn to fear us." The stars outside the ship's window twinkled softly as Emily Hayes stood on the bridge, staring into the vastness of space. The human fleet, once a secret force kept hidden in the shadows, was now in motion. She could feel the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. This was the moment when humanity would show the galaxy that they were no longer going to stay quiet, no longer going to be ignored. "We're almost there, Captain," Alex Carter, her trusted officer, said from his console. He looked calm, but Emily knew he was just as aware of the significance of this mission as she was. His fingers moved quickly over the controls, guiding their fleet forward. Ahead of them lay the outer edges of the Vorta Empire, one of the most powerful and aggressive empires in the galaxy. For years, the Vorta had been known for their ruthless conquests, spreading fear across many star systems. They had always seen humanity as small and insignificant, a race that could be easily overlooked. Now, that perception was about to change. Emily took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Prepare the fleet for Phase 1, she commanded, her voice steady, but carrying the weight of determination. "We're going to show them that humanity no longer fears the Vorta or anyone else in the galaxy." The ships in her fleet, though, built from older designs, were far more advanced than anyone could have predicted. They were faster, stronger, and equipped with technology that none of the galactic powers had seen before. Humanity had spent years improving their old ships, reworking every inch, every system, until they were more dangerous than even the most advanced Vorta warships. "Everything is ready, Captain," Alex confirmed, his voice clear and confident. "The fleet is in position. No one will expect what's coming next." Emily glanced around at her crew, each of them focused on their tasks, but their eyes betraying a shared excitement. The time for caution had passed. Humanity was done with restraint. The galaxy needed to understand that their power had been hidden for far too long. The fleet moved into position just outside the Vorta border, its ships arranged in a formation that allowed them to strike with overwhelming force. Now the Vorta, watching from their own borders, saw only a small, insignificant human fleet coming toward them. They would not recognize the danger until it was too late. A message came through the communications channel from the Vorta Empire. It was a warning: turn back now, or face the consequences. Emily's lips curled into a faint smile. The Vorta thought they could intimidate humans with threats, just as they had done with countless other species. But Emily knew that the Vorta did not understand what they were dealing with. Humanity was no longer afraid. Humanity was no longer weak. "Transmit our reply," Emily said, her voice filled with cold confidence. "Tell them we have no intention of turning back. Let's make sure they understand the consequences of underestimating us." The reply was short and to the point. "We restrained ourselves for far too long, but we won't anymore." As the words of their message echoed across the communication channels, the human fleet moved forward, breaking the silence of the galaxy with its sudden advance. The Vorta fleet, which had been confident in their superiority, now scrambled to respond. They sent ships out to meet the humans, expecting an easy victory. They had no idea what was coming. Emily watched as the Vorta ships approached. They were large and imposing, with weapons designed to strike fear into weaker species. But as they drew closer, the human fleet did not retreat. Instead, they positioned themselves perfectly, preparing for the first strike. "We're ready." "Captain," Alex said, his voice steady, but with a hint of excitement, "the moment is ours."
"I'll make it count,"
Emily replied, her heart pounding. The galaxy was watching, and humanity's fate was in their hands. The first Vorta ship came. Into range, and with a single command, Emily gave the order. "Fire!" The human fleet unleashed a powerful barrage, striking the Vorta ship with devastating precision. The Vorta were not prepared for the force of the attack. Their ship was crippled within moments, its shields shattered and its engines disabled. The crew of the Vorta ship had no time to react before they were rendered helpless. "Target the next ship," Emily ordered calmly, watching as the Vorta's response turned into chaos. They had no idea how to counter the human fleet's strategy. It was swift, precise, and overwhelming. The human fleet continued to advance, each ship striking down Vorta warships one after another. It wasn't a drawn-out battle, it was a massacre. The Vorta had underestimated humanity's capabilities, and now they were paying the price. The ships that had once been seen as relics were now the most feared vessels in the galaxy. "We've done it," Alex said, his voice filled with awe. "We've shown them what we can do," but Emily didn't smile. There was no time for celebration yet. The message had been sent, but it needed to be heard by more than just the Vorta. The galaxy had to know that humanity was no longer going to be ignored, as the last of the Vorta ships fell. Emily turned to her crew. "Prepare to move deeper. Into their space," she commanded. "We're not stopping until the entire galaxy knows what humanity is capable of." The human fleet, now a symbol of strength and power, began its march deeper into Vorta territory. The Vorta had been the first to feel the might of humanity's hidden power, but they would not be the last. Emily knew that the galaxy was watching, and what they saw today would change everything. The Vorta Empire, once thought to be untouchable, was now in ruins. And the message was clear. Humanity had restrained itself for long enough. The galaxy would either respect them or fear them, but they would never be underestimated again. The galaxy was in shock. News of humanity's unexpected assault on the Vorta Empire had spread like wildfire, causing panic and confusion. For years, the galactic powers had assumed that humanity was a peaceful race, too weak to pose a real threat. Now, they were facing the harsh truth. Humans were not weak, and they were not afraid. Emily Hayes stood in the command center of the flagship, her eyes fixed on the holographic map of the galaxy. The Vorta, once a powerful empire, were now reduced to chaos. Their fleet was crippled, their territory under threat. The galaxy had been watching, and humanity had made its message clear. "We will not be ignored. We've received reports from across the galaxy, Captain," Alex Carter said, his voice steady as he looked over the data. "The other empires are reacting. Some are scared, others are angry, and there are a few that are ... intrigued." Emily nodded. The galaxy was divided in its response. Some races were fearful, realizing that humanity had far more strength than they had believed. Others were upset by the sudden shift in power, seeing the human assault as an unexpected and dangerous challenge. But there was one thing although. Empires shared, they had all underestimated humanity, and now they were facing the consequences. "We need to send another message," Emily said, her voice firm. "This is just the beginning. Humanity has been held back for too long. It's time." The galaxy understood that we won't stand by and wait to be treated like second-class citizens anymore. The human fleet, now bolstered by the victory over the Vorta, was moving deeper into their territory. The ships, once considered outdated, were now feared across the galaxy. The Vorta had been the first to realize that humanity's strength was not in their weapons, but in their ability to adapt, to innovate, and to strike with overwhelming force when needed. "We're getting close to the border of the Galath Combine," Alex reported, his eyes scanning the map. "They've sent a fleet to intercept us." The Galath Combine was a powerful alliance of several species, known for their technological superiority and their long-standing control over vast swaths of the galaxy. Like the Vorta, they had always dismissed humanity as weak. But now, they were faced with a choice: to engage in a full-scale war with humanity, or to back down. "Set a course to meet them," Emily said, her voice calm but resolute. "It's time to see if the Galath Combine is as strong as they think they are." The human fleet approached the Galeth border, their ships forming a tight formation. The Galeth fleet was already waiting for them, a massive armada of advanced warships. The tension in the air was palpable, as both sides knew that this encounter would set the tone for the future of their relationship. The two fleets met in the cold emptiness of space, their weapons ready. The Galeth ships, sleek and deadly, glided effortlessly through the stars. They were an impressive sight, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. But Emily knew that appearances could be deceiving. "Let's make this quick, Emily," said her voice steady. "Open communication channels." A Galeth commander appeared on the holographic screen, his many eyes studying Emily with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "Humanity," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "You think you can challenge us after what you did to the Vorta? You're nothing but a nuisance?" Emily's gaze hardened. "We are no longer a nuisance, Commander. We are a force to be reckoned with." "You've underestimated us for too long," the Galeth commander sneered. "You're lucky the Vorta fell so easily, but do not think that we will make the same mistake." Emily's lips curled into a small smile. "We'll see about that." Without warning, she gave the order. Fire. The human fleet unleashed a barrage of firepower, its weapons striking the Galeth ships with stunning accuracy. The Galeth were not prepared for the speed and power of the attack. Their shields were quickly overwhelmed, their ships rocked by the force of the strikes. "We've got them on the defensive," Alex said, his fingers flying over the controls. "Their fleet is disorganized. They don't know how to counter our tactics." Emily watched as the Galeth fleet tried to regroup, sending more ships to engage, but it was too late. The human fleet had already shown them that their strength wasn't just in their ships, but in their ability to outthink and outmaneuver their opponents. "Captain," Alex said, looking up from his console, "we've received a transmission from the Galeth command ship. They want to negotiate." Emily raised an eyebrow. "Negotiate? After everything we've done, they're trying to?" "Avoid complete destruction," Alex said. "They're offering a ceasefire." Emily's eyes narrowed. "Send them a message. Tell them we don't negotiate with anyone who underestimates us. But if they want peace, they need to recognize us as equals. No more threats. No more excuses." The message was clear. Humanity had made their point. They would no longer settle for being treated as a lesser species. The Galeth, once thought to be untouchable, had learned the hard way that humanity was no longer the quiet, peaceful race they had once been. As the Galeth ships began to retreat, their fleet in disarray, Emily felt a sense of accomplishment. Humanity had sent another clear message. They would no longer hold back. The galaxy would no longer see them as weak or insignificant. "We've done it, Captain," Alex said. "They're retreating. The Galeths have been defeated." But Emily didn't. "Relax. This was only the beginning. The other powers in the galaxy would be watching closely, and humanity's actions would shape the future of the galaxy." They had already made their mark, but the true test would come when the rest of the galaxy realized that humanity was no longer just a player in the background. They were a force to be reckoned with. "We'll keep moving forward," Emily said, her voice steady. The message is just starting to spread. The galaxy will learn who we are. And we won't stop until they understand that humanity no longer fears them. We will be respected, or they will fear us. With that, the human fleet continued its journey, marching further into the unknown reaches of space. The galaxy had just begun to realize that humanity had broken free of the chains that had once held them back. And now, the galaxy would have to deal with the consequences. The galaxy was changing. The human fleet had crushed the Vorta, shattered the Galactic Combine, and left a wake of stunned and nervous civilizations in its path. No longer the quiet, peaceful species they once were, humanity had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with. The words of Captain Emily Hayes, spoken so boldly during the meeting with the galactic powers, had echoed across the stars. We restrained ourselves for far too long. But we won't anymore. The galaxy was beginning to feel the weight of those words. On the flagship, Emily stood at the window of the command center, staring out at the endless expanse of stars.
The fleet was traveling deeper into uncharted space.
Their destination unclear. The mission was simple, but monumental. Make sure the entire galaxy understood that humanity was no longer weak, no longer willing to settle for second-class status. The communications officer turned to her. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from several different systems. The news of our victories has reached almost every corner of the galaxy." Emily nodded. She had expected this. Humanity's message had been sent loud and clear. But now the question remained. What would the galaxy do about it? "We've seen reports from the Zenite Alliance," Alex Carter said, his voice filled with concern. "They're calling for an emergency summit. They're scared, Captain. They don't know what to do with humanity now." Emily exhaled slowly. "Then be scared. Let them prepare. They'll come to us soon enough. Asking for terms, asking for peace. But they'll need to learn something first." Alex raised an eyebrow. "What's that, Captain?" "That humanity doesn't beg for peace," Emily replied firmly. "We demand respect." The human fleet continued to push forward, their ships gliding through space with an air of purpose. They weren't just traveling anymore. They were making a statement. Every system they passed, every ship they encountered, they left behind a mark. The galaxy was beginning to realize that humanity was no longer the timid species that had once been content to stay out of the way. One of the first to respond was the Seldar Dominion, a powerful empire known for its advanced technology and fierce pride. The Seldar had always viewed humans as insignificant, just another race trying to make a name for itself. But now, they were forced to face the truth. Humanity had outgrown its previous role. They had become a new power, a new force in the galaxy. "Captain, we've intercepted a message from the Seldar Dominion," Alex reported. "They want to open talks." Emily's eyes narrowed as she listened to the message. The Seldar were asking for a meeting to discuss terms of peace. They had already seen the devastating force that humanity could bring, and they were no longer willing to ignore it. "Prepare the communication channel," Emily said. "Let's see what they have to say." The Seldar representative appeared on the screen, a tall being with translucent skin and glowing markings across its body. Its voice was calm but tinged with uncertainty. "Captain Hayes, we've received the reports. We understand that humanity has demonstrated power beyond what we expected. We are ready to negotiate a ceasefire and begin talks on peace." Emily studied the representative for a moment. She had anticipated this response. The Seldar were proud, but they were also pragmatic. They understood the cost of war, and they knew that humanity was no longer a threat to be dismissed. "You think? We're here to negotiate peace on your terms," Emily said, her voice cold. "But let me be clear. Humanity does not negotiate from a position of weakness anymore. If you want peace, you'll have to respect us as equals." The Seldar representative blinked, clearly taken aback by her response. "We are not your enemy, Captain. Simply wish to avoid further conflict." "We've already made our point," Emily replied. "We've shown that we can defend ourselves. We've shown that we don't need your permission to exist in this galaxy. If you want peace, it will come on our terms, not yours." There was a long silence, and for a moment the Seldar representative looked unsure, but then it nodded slowly. Very well, Captain. We will come to the table on your terms. As the human fleet moved forward, other species began to follow the Seldar's lead. The news of humanity's newfound strength spread like wildfire, and many empires found themselves facing a difficult choice. They could continue to resist, or they could adapt to this new reality. The humans were no longer a minor race in the galaxy. They were a power to be reckoned with. On board the flagship, Emily received word from the Galactic Council. The other powers, sensing the shift in the balance, were calling for a meeting. They wanted to discuss humanity's role in the future of the galaxy. "They want us to come to the table," Alex said, reading the message aloud. "The other powers are willing to negotiate, ... But they want assurances that humanity will not disrupt the peace they've worked so hard to maintain." Emily considered the message carefully. The Council had always been a place of diplomacy, a place where the galaxy's great powers could discuss matters of importance. Now, humanity had earned its seat at that table. But she knew that the negotiation would not. "Be easy, we'll go," Emily said finally. "But we'll go on our terms. We won't beg for peace. We won't ask for permission. We'll take our place among the powers of the galaxy, and we'll demand the respect we deserve." The human fleet arrived at the Galactic Council's meeting place, a neutral station located at the center of the galaxy. As they approached, Emily could see the gathering of ships from every corner of the galaxy. Each species had sent its representatives, each one wary of what the humans might do next. Emily stood tall in the center of the council chamber, her eyes scanning the room. The leaders of the various galactic powers were present, their faces a mixture of curiosity, fear, and determination. They had all heard the reports. They had all seen the power that humanity now wielded. "I stand before you today as the representative of humanity," Emily said, her voice carrying through the chamber. "We've shown that we are a force to be reckoned with. We've shown that we will no longer be ignored. But we're not here to threaten anyone. We're here to demand that humanity be treated as equals in this galaxy." The room was silent. Representatives of the galaxy's great powers were all watching her, unsure of how to respond. They had never seen a species speak with such confidence, such certainty. "We will not back down," Emily continued. "We will not be treated as second-class citizens. We will not be underestimated. If you want peace, it will come on our terms. If you want respect, you will give it to us. And if you continue to treat us as less than you, then you will have to deal with the consequences." The message was clear, and it echoed across the galaxy. Humanity would no longer be held back.